så grulle stout, og vaske seg med søtelmelk og skure seg med saup. Og vaske seg og skure seg så hun var hvit som krit, og vaske seg og skure seg så ingen tårer skal med dit.
There var en gång, long ago in a cold open valley in Norway, a wealthy old squire stood in the doorway and fervently hollered at all of his servants, "Kokk, det er nok med kvinnen din. Jeg er snart sulten for middagen." The old squire looked across the valley and tallied the hands that he'd hired. "There are 3 missing. I'd best go and find them." 1 was out fishing and 2 had been kissing behind him. "You are fired!" The squire had more than enough of land, of livestock and stuff, but he longed for a wife most of his life to take the place of his Freya. And one day, when his workers were raking hay and the old man was lurking to keep up the pace, he saw the friendly face of his Freya in the girl from next door. He'd seen her before and knew she was poor, so he thought for sure she would seize the chance. "I was thinking of getting married," he said, clearing his throat and adjusting his pants. "I trust that a goat would be keen for romance," she giggled and tittered with bitter undertones. "If you're proposing to me, sir, I'd rather be alone." The man hadn't planned for rejection. "I can tell by your inflection, miss, that you'll need some direction with this." The squire didn't bother to win her affection and went to her father to ask for her hand. He offered that section of land by his meadow and the money her father was owing, if he could put it in such a way that the girl simply had to accept. But she kept to herself, as if touched by an elf, and her heart was as tough as a stone. "If you're proposing to me, sir, I'd rather be alone." So her mother sat her down for a chat, to make it clear about her career. "We have fed you all of these years," she says. "Now, dear, it is time to be wed." "Honey, just think of the money." "Men kjære, tenk på penger, tenk på drenger, dyr, skatt og mat. Du er flink og skal leve lenger." "He is so rich, you won't do a stitch. Just think about that." "But he stinks, mother, and he's fat. I'll not be deferred, and I'll surely not marry that rat." The girl always had the very last word, surly, nasty, and crass, with a touch of class. And she had stirred up such contempt by her suitor's 3rd attempt, and he'd incurred such skillful insults, and still no results. So the squire, now full of fire, went ahead and planned their wedding. Getting her dress ready, the bedding cleaned, assorted, cakes and torts were baked, the best table settings imported. And when the guests were all convened, the squire requests his bride to be escorted from the fields. "Wield her with your able hands, and keep right at her heels, young man. Catch her deep in the bramble patch just beyond my land." The stable boy did just this, and scrambled through the thicket. He found a young miss picking there in the mare that had gone missing. So he led her to the manor, though she wilfully resisted, where they skillfully assisted her up the stairs. It was quite a clatter. With all the flighty chatter and the platters of good fare, the guests were unaware of the commotion. The help were all in stitches how the squire, with all his riches, had the notion to acquire such a bride. The gown was most unflattering. Her temperament was wild. She would surely batter him, and she was with child. They girded the dress upon the bride and spurred her down again, outside and to the church beside the squire's land. And as they forced her to the altar, he knew, of course, he couldn't falter, and turned to take her hand. But as they forced her to the altar, he was abhorred. What they were forcing to the altar was not the girl next door. What they had forced to the altar was a horse with a halter. It was a horse. With a halter, that's right. And just who is at fault here?
Det var en liten gammel som gikk og gjette fe. Så kom det ei skjønn jomfru, ville spela ved med. For vi spela det, Gud